The airport terminal hummed with the fluorescent glow of late arrivals. Jet lag was a fog in Leo's skull, but the call had sliced right through it. The hospital corridor was a study in pale green and hushed, antiseptic air. Leo pushed through the door to find Evan lying still, a stark white bandage wrapped around his head, his features softer in unconsciousness. The doctor spoke in a low, professional murmur. Moderate concussion. Keep the circulation moving. Leo sat heavily in the chair, reaching for Evan's hand. It was the first time. The very first time he'd been allowed to touch him. For 2 years, he'd orbited Evan, a desperate satellite to a cold, distant star. Evan, with his sharp jawline and eyes the color of a winter sky, who carried an invisible force field that repelled any advance. Now that hand lay passive in his own. Leo worked his thumbs over the knuckles, tracing the long, elegant lines of fingers that could have modeled for a watch advertisement. The skin was cool, flawless. A tremor, wild and disbelieving, shot through him. He brought the palm to his cheek, then, on an impulse he couldn't name, pressed his lips to the fingertips. Faint twitch, the barest flutter against his mouth. It was a spark in dry tinder. A reckless, hungry curiosity overtook him. The room was silent. Leo glanced at the door, his breath shallow, with his left hand still cradling Evan's against his face. His right slipped beneath the starched hospital sheet. He found the hem of the gown, then the flat, warm plane of Evan's stomach. The skin was taut, smooth. Leo's fingers splayed, seeking, heart hammering against his ribs. This was a stolen, impossible intimacy, a double fantasy unfolding in the sterile quiet. A low groan. Leo froze, his hand stilling. He looked up to find Evan's eyes open, hazy and unfocused, fixed on him. Leo snatched his hand back as if burned. His mind raced, a scramble for excuses, for any plausible story. "Who are you?" The question, delivered in Evan's familiar, cool baritone, yet stripped of all recognition, hung in the air. Leo's prepared lies evaporated. He stared, the reality dawning like a slow, cold wave. 2 years of careful, aching progress, from icy dismissal to the occasional grudging glance, wiped clean. The memory of Evan finally, just last week, taking the coffee Leo offered without a word of thanks, but without throwing it away either, flashed and then disintegrated. You don't remember?" Leo's voice was thin. Evan shook his head slightly, wincing at the motion. His gaze was clouded, genuinely lost. "Do I know you?" In the electric silence, a wild, desperate idea took root. It was madness. It was his only chance. Leo's expression crumpled, not entirely an act. He pointed a trembling finger. "Evan, you unbelievable jerk." The words spilled out, heated and sharp. "Last night you were calling me baby, begging for a kiss, and now you pull this?" He infused his voice with a raw, wounded fury he didn't have to fake, his chest heaving for effect. "You get what you want and then you just blank me out?" Evan's eyes widened, his head shifting on the pillow to look down at his own body under the sheet, then back at Leo with dawning, horrified comprehension. "I'm a gay?" "Yes." Leo snapped, sealing the lie with conviction. "You made me gay. You chased me, you wore me down, and now you're gonna play the amnesia card? Not a chance. You are responsible for this. For me." He watched the shock settle into Evan's features. In the story Leo now wove, their roles were perfectly reversed. It was Evan who had been the persistent one since freshman orientation, buying lattes, saving seats, sending roses on Valentine's Day. All the grand, unrequited gestures Leo himself had performed. He spoke of resistance, of finally being worn down, of a night that changed everything. He buried his face in the rough hospital blanket near Evan's shoulder, his voice a theatrical murmur. "I was straight as an arrow, Evan. Until you..." He felt Evan's body tense. A moment passed, then a large, tentative hand came up and patted Leo's shoulder with clumsy awkwardness. Leo lifted his head, eyes glistening. "This is how you comfort me now?" You used to hold me on your lap and kiss me until I couldn't think straight. Evan's brow furrowed, a flicker of his old stubbornness in the confusion. I did that? You're such a... Leo began. The insult cut off as Evan's hand cupped the back of his neck and pulled him in. The kiss was hesitant at first, then firmer. Leo's world narrowed to the surprising softness of Evan's lips, the faint scent of antiseptic and clean cotton. His mind went blissfully, terrifyingly blank. When Evan pulled back, his voice was a low rumble. Like that? Leo, flushed, managed a shaky nod. Close. Your technique's a little rusty. A challenge flashed in Evan's clouded eyes. Before Leo could react, Evan had shifted, an arm hooking around his waist to maneuver him onto the edge of the mattress. He hovered over Leo, his expression one of determined focus. Let me try again. Leo lost track of time. Each time he breathlessly insisted it wasn't quite right, wasn't as good as before, Evan would dive back in, a man relearning a vital skill. Finally, Leo pushed weakly at his chest, his lips feeling swollen and sensitive. Okay, we need to preserve my mouth. Practice can continue tomorrow. Evan's eyes, clearer now, held a glimmer of something like gratitude. He pulled Leo against him. Thank you, he murmured into Leo's hair. For being patient. It's what you do for someone you love. Leo whispered, the lie tasting bittersweet. What's your name? Evan asked softly. Leo didn't hesitate. Leo. I'm Leo. You used to call me your favorite name in the world. He reached up, gently pinching Evan's cheek, forcing a playful sternness. Even if you've forgotten everything else, you don't get to forget me. I'll try, Evan said, his arms tightening. I'll try to remember how to love you. The shared dorm room felt different now, charged with a fragile new energy. Leo pointed to Evan's standard-issue single bed. That's ours. Evan stared at the narrow mattress. Both of us? On that? You're the one who insisted, Leo said, shrugging with feigned exasperation. Said you couldn't sleep unless you were holding me. From their desks, their roommates, Jake and Chris, watched the exchange with poorly concealed amusement. The sight of the formerly aloof, untouchable Evan now looking genuinely perplexed was clearly a novel form of entertainment. Where did I used to sleep? Evan asked. Leo pointed to his own neatly made bed across the room. That one. When you made me mad, I'd go sleep there. Like a spouse storming off to the guest room, Jake quipped, earning a subtle thumbs up from Leo behind Evan's back. I made you mad often? You were just very affectionate. Sometimes I needed space. Evan looked genuinely contrite. He rested his chin on Leo's shoulder from behind, his voice a low murmur near his ear. Leo, I'm sorry. I'll try to be less clingy. Don't you dare, Leo said, leaning back into him. I understand it's just because you love me so much. That night, Leo slipped into Evan's bed. Evan had pulled the comforter up to his chin, his posture rigid. In the faint blue glow from a laptop charger, Leo saw he'd buttoned his pajama top to the very top. Evan, Leo sighed, a patient teacher. You usually help me out here. You'd already have the first few buttons undone. I was that forward? You rarely wore a shirt to bed at all. With visible hesitation, Evan's fingers went to the buttons. He undid them slowly, then loosened the drawstring of his sweatpants. He lay back, staring at the ceiling. Okay, Leo, go ahead. The sight stole Leo's breath. The defined abdominal muscles, the strong lines of his thighs in the dim light. It was a landscape he'd only ever imagined. He closed his eyes, pressing a kiss first to Evan's collarbone. Evan's whole body jerked. Sure, Leo soothed, stroking his cheek. It's just our routine. You need this to fall asleep. You're very accommodating, Evan gritted out, his voice strained. Leo lost himself in the sensation, the taste of skin, the feel of solid muscle under his palms, until Evan's breathing changed, his body growing pliant and warm. Only then did Leo curl into the circle of his arms, a deep satisfaction settling in his bones. He ignored the firm pressure against his back that made sleep slow to come. Evan became, to the fascination of their entire social circle, the model boyfriend. Attentive, devoted, his previous chill replaced by a focus that was entirely directed at Leo. He carried Leo's backpack, brought him an iced coffee exactly how he liked it after class. It was surreal. Walking out of a lecture hall into the bright afternoon, a girl named Hannah stepped into their path, her cheeks pink. She held out a small, elegantly wrapped box. "Evan, I made these brownies. For you." Evan's gaze immediately flicked to Leo, who turned his face away, a knot forming in his stomach. Hannah was on the university's debate team with Evan. Quick-witted, with a disarming smile, she'd been a constant, friendly presence in his life for 2 years. Evan had always been patient with her, sometimes meeting her at the dorm lobby. He'd never refused her homemade cookies. Evan laced his fingers tightly with Leo's. "Hannah," he said, his voice firm, "I have a boyfriend. You're making him uncomfortable." Hannah's eyes went wide. "You're not really together. It's just a joke, right? Because of the accident? Does this look like a joke?" Evan lifted their joined hands. Hannah's face crumpled, and she fled. Leo spent the rest of the morning in a fog. The old anxiety, buried under months of blissful deceit, resurfaced. What if Evan remembered? What if he realized he'd actually been falling for someone like Hannah all along? What if he looked at Leo with pure revulsion? "Leo!" Evan's voice broke through his spiraling thoughts. They were standing in the middle of a sun-dappled grove of oak trees near the library. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Tired." Evan's expression tightened. He took Leo's wrist and pulled him, stumbling, deeper into the grove. He backed Leo against the rough bark of a large tree, pinned his wrists above his head, and kissed him with a startling, desperate intensity. Leo's struggles ceased, melting into a boneless surrender. Evan broke the kiss, his breath hot against Leo's ear. "Better? Did I do it right? You said when you're upset, I should kiss you until you can't stand." "Evan, what well?" he insisted, his eyes dark and intense. "Are you dizzy? Are your legs weak?" "Yes," Leo gasped. "Yes, they are." Evan released him, his own breathing uneven. As they walked back onto the main path, he said quietly, "Leo, if I chose you, I'm not going to hurt you. You have to trust that." Leo nodded, his heart aching. "But you didn't choose me. I chose for you." He held Evan's hand tighter, as if he could keep the truth at bay through sheer force. The distance grew, a self-imposed punishment. Leo stopped initiating their nightly rituals. He made excuses to avoid studying together. One evening, returning to the dorm, he found Jake passed out on his bed, reeking of bourbon. Chris shot Leo a nervous look. Hannah took him out, got him wasted and dropped him back here. A cold dread washed over Leo. He shook Jake's shoulder, but the boy was dead to the world. Did he tell her anything? Chris bit his lip. "I don't know, man. He was pretty gone." Leo's hands clenched, nails digging into his palms. He gave a hollow laugh. "It's fine. Stolen things always have to be returned eventually." As if summoned, his phone buzzed. "Hannah, meet me at the quad fountain." She was waiting by the stone basin, a slight figure in a sundress. "Leo," she said, her voice trembling with anger. "You lied to him, didn't you? You took advantage when he was vulnerable." The tightness in Leo's chest eased slightly. She didn't know. He met her gaze. "Hannah, whether he liked men or women before is irrelevant now. He's with me. You never were. He was going to choose me." She cried, tears spilling over. "We were getting closer." "But you weren't together," Leo said softly, placing a packet of tissues on the bench beside her before walking away, his own guilt a heavy cloak. Evan was in the dorm when he returned, his posture rigid, his gaze icy. "You saw Hannah." Leo's heart sank. Yes. He braced for the confrontation, for the collapse of his fabricated world. Evan crossed the room in 2 strides, grabbing his arm and pulling him into the hallway. Chris called after them, "Dude, homicide is still illegal." "Evan, what are you doing?" Leo yelped. "If you don't want to be with me, just say it." Evan hissed, his voice low and frayed. He stopped, his eyes searching Leo's face, and to Leo's shock, they grew shiny with unshed tears. "You can't just go to her." "Leo, I might be confused about a lot, but I know I only have you. Did I mess up? Is my kissing not good enough? I can practice more. Just tell me what's wrong." A single tear tracked down his cheek, over the faint beauty mark near his eye. The sight was devastatingly beautiful. I don't like Hannah," Leo stammered, utterly disoriented. "Then what is this heartfelt feeling you said I rediscovered?" Evan pressed, his voice raw. He leaned close, his lips brushing Leo's ear, his breath warm. "This wanting to hold your hand all the time. This wanting to kiss you when I see you laugh with someone else. It's when you kiss me goodnight and I want—" He trailed off, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Leo, have we done more?" Leo's pulse roared in his ears. "Of course we have," he managed. "I'm not a saint." Evan's eyes lit with a desperate hope. "Who usually takes the lead?" "Evan, tell me," he murmured, biting Leo's earlobe gently. "We should go to a hotel tonight. Let me review. You can coach me." Dazed, Leo could only nod, allowing himself to be led away, his thoughts a chaotic whirl. The hotel room was all neutral tones and soft lighting. Evan started gently, his kisses sweet, lulling Leo into a false sense of security. But it shifted, becoming something rougher, more urgent, a reclaiming. "Is this right?" Evan would growl against his skin. "Or this? Not like that, you used to be gentler," Leo finally sobbed, overwhelmed. Evan stilled, his breathing harsh. "Maybe a change is good. Keeps things fresh. So you don't think about anyone else?" He didn't let up, his questions punctuating the darkness. "Leo, do you love me?" "I love you." "Will you see her again?" "No." "Will you pull away from me?" "Never." He wept until his voice was gone, and Evan, finally soothed, held him close, whispering apologies into his hair. The possession only intensified after that. Leo was shadowed, cherished, and quietly smothered. For Leo's birthday, Evan rented a loft space in a converted warehouse, all exposed brick and fairy lights. It seemed half the campus was there. Under a cascade of paper stars, Evan kissed him deeply, sang an off-key but heartfelt happy birthday, guided his hands to cut the towering cake. He presented a sleek, limited-ion chronograph watch, fastening it around Leo's wrist before kissing his forehead. Leo, surrounded by laughter and music, made a silent wish for this to never end. Then Sam arrived. Leo hadn't seen his childhood friend in months. Evan had quietly erased Sam's presence from Leo's life, blocking his number, deleting texts. Sam's gaze swept the party before landing on Leo. He walked over, ignoring Evan completely, and handed Leo a small box. Inside was an identical watch. The music seemed to fade. A ring of curious, awkward silence spread around them. Sam smiled, easy and unbothered. "Great minds. Huh? Guess it just proves anything he can give you, Leo, I can give you too." Evan's arm slid around Leo's waist, his voice a cold challenge. "The loser returns." "Didn't get the message?" "The only message I get is that you're a placeholder," Sam shot back. The punch came fast. Evan blocked it, and they crashed into the refreshment table in a tangle of limbs and fury. Leo screamed for them to stop, trying to wedge himself between them, his heart tearing in 2 directions. And then a voice, clear and metallic, echoed through the loft's sound system. "He's lost his memory. I told him he was gay, that I was the one he chased for years. He bought it." Leo froze, blood turning to ice. It was his own voice, tinny from a phone recording, but unmistakable. He spun, eyes wild, finding the speaker. Hannah stood on the metal staircase leading to a control balcony, a small remote in her hand, her face a mask of vindictive triumph. "You're a liar, Leo," her voice followed, recorded from the same conversation. The snippet played once, twice, a brutal, concise confession. Leo lunged for the speaker, clawing at it, finally hurling a champagne bottle that shattered against the wall, silencing it. Every face in the room was turned toward Evan, who had slowly disentangled himself from Sam and risen to his feet. His expression was one of shattered incomprehension. Was that true? The words were barely audible. Leo could only bow his head, the weight of his deception crushing him.
"I'm sorry, Evan."
"You never chased me. You never even liked me. I tricked you." Evan's gaze swept to Jake and Chris, who looked at their shoes. "You all knew? It was my fault," Leo choked out. "I made them go along with it. It was all me." Evan staggered, bracing a hand against the brick wall. The confusion in his eyes boiled over into a furious, betrayed hurt. You let me believe. You made a fool out of me." He began hitting the side of his own head with the heel of his hand, his eyes turning red. "Leo, I trusted you. Was it a game? Watching me obey you? Was it funny? No. Evan, I love you. I loved you for 2 years and you never saw me. I saw my chance and I took it, and it was wrong, it was so wrong. But the love was real, please." He was on his knees now, weeping, grasping at any shred of hope. Evan pointed a trembling finger toward the door. "Get out," he whispered. Then the words ripped from him, full of venom. "Get out. I never want to see you again." The look in his eyes was one of pure disgust. Leo felt something inside him break irreparably. He left the country. The paperwork for the transfer Sam had arranged years before was finalized. His new life was orderly. Lectures, the hushed stacks of the library, bars with Sam where the lights were low and the music loud. Sleep became a foreign country. He could only enter it with the passport of alcohol. He never unfriended anyone back home. He just watched, a ghost in the machine. When Hannah posted a picture of her hand clasped with Evan's, captioned with a simple heart, dozens of likes flooded in. Leo's finger hovered, then tapped the like icon. He had no blessing to give. Late one night, scrolling mindlessly, he opened his message thread with Evan. The last messages were months old. "Leo, party's over. Hotel? Evan." Smiling emoji Leo. Shy rabbit emoji his thumb, clumsy with a third whiskey, brushed the screen. A notification popped up. "You patted Evan." He dropped the phone. When he dared to look again, the chat header ominously stated, "Evan is typing." He waited, breath held, until Sam called him to dinner. Nothing ever came. Of course not. He was lucky Evan hadn't sent a stream of curses. A few days later, a message from Jake. Evan got in another fender bender. He's okay. Leo's instinct to call was immediate, then crushed by reality. He had no right. He checked Evan's profile, unchanged, except for a single new post. A photo of a forearm stitched with neat black sutures. The caption, "This sucks." Leo almost smiled. He remembered a quote about leaving people in peace being the ultimate kindness. After a long, conflicted moment, he navigated to Evan's profile and pressed remove friend. The truth was a jagged thing Evan didn't know how to hold. The fury was real, a hot coal in his chest. But so was the ghost of the happiness, the profound rightness he'd felt in those months. Leo had been a whirlwind, a constant, chattering warmth in the cold blankness of his mind. He craved it, but he was straight. He had to be. His reaction was to flee any space Leo might occupy, terrified of the confusing pull that remained. When Jake called to say Leo had withdrawn and left the country, the emptiness that opened up was startling. To prove a point to himself mostly, he said yes when Hannah, tearful and hopeful, asked him out. She was a family friend, a nice girl. It made sense. He held her hand that evening. It felt like holding a slightly damp paper towel. When she posted the picture, he watched his phone obsessively, waiting for a reaction from a profile that was no longer his friend. The single, silent felt like a dismissal. The rage that followed was irrational and consuming. He broke up with Hannah the next day, her confused devastation a distant echo. Bored, he logged into an old Twitter account. In his following list was an account named Sam_abroad. The avatar was familiar. Sam, Leo's protector. Sam's recent feed was a study in devotion. Candid shots of Leo. Leo bent over a textbook, sunlight catching the gold in his hair. Leo chewing on a straw, lost in thought. Leo's sleepy, morning face, a cowlick sticking up, wearing what were clearly Sam's pajamas. The caption read, "Going to tell him how I feel tonight. Wish me luck." The jealousy was a physical punch, winding him. He scrolled back. Months ago, a series of posts showed a quieter, sadder Leo. Sam's caption under one of them, "So happy. The person I love is coming to be with me. L. I won't let you go this time. L. Leo." The timeline clicked into place. Last winter, after the first accident, after he had become the obstacle, a sudden, violent pain lanced through his temples. Memories, sharp and unbidden, flooded back. Leo, panicked, trying to pick up shattered soda bottles with his bare hands, blood welling on his fingers. Evan's own voice, sharp with a concern he'd been too stubborn to name. "Leo, you're just making it worse. You need to leave." Leo's heartbroken face, running off. The text that came later, "Liking you is exhausting, Evan. I'm thinking of leaving. If you care at all, stop me." He hadn't replied. He'd been at the hospital with Hannah, fulfilling a duty. He'd assumed it was another of Leo's dramatic pleas. He'd wanted space to figure out the strange, compelling pull he himself felt. And then he'd seen Sam's posts. The jealousy had been instantaneous, clarifying. He'd finally understood. He was in love with his roommate. He'd raced to the airport, calling Leo's dead phone over and over, desperate to confess before he got on the plane. The crash had stolen that moment and the truth. He looked at the time. It was the middle of the night where Leo was. He'd fly there. He'd tell him in person. On the way to arrange an emergency visa, distracted and speeding, he swerved to avoid a deer. The sedan spun, connecting solidly with a lamppost. 10 stitches in his left arm. In the ER, he posted the picture. "This sucks." He waited. No call. No message. He typed, "Hey, know any good scar gel?" The red exclamation mark was a final, brutal period. He refreshed Sam's page. A new photo. Leo, in those soft pajamas, looking up at the camera with a trust that shattered Evan's heart. The caption was a victory announcement. Evan didn't feel the pain as he yanked out his .4. He called Jake. "I need to get to the airport now." The rain in the city where Leo studied was a fine, persistent mist. Evan sat on the front steps of the neat brownstone, his jacket soaked, for hours. The streetlights haloed in the damp when he finally saw them. Sam held a large umbrella, tilted so it fully covered Leo, while his own shoulder grew dark with rain. Leo was talking, his hands animated, a bright smile on his face. Sam watched him with a look of such fond possession it made Evan's stomach twist. Leo stumbled on a tree root. A shower of droplets fell. Sam instantly pulled him into his side, shielding him. Leo laughed, extracting himself, looking up at Sam with an easy affection. Evan stood, his body aching. "Leo!" Leo stopped dead. His face went pale. He took an unconscious half-step back, putting Sam slightly between them. The defensive gesture was a knife to Evan's soul. He had put that fear there. He took a deep breath, the courage coming from the memory of all the times Leo had bravely crossed the distance Evan had kept. "Leo," he repeated, his voice rough with emotion and the chill. Do you still want me?"